This lesson is dedicated to generating the project idea. A project idea is born when we notice that something around us is not working well, or when we want to change or improve something. Sometimes it comes from a real problem. This problem may be caused by a lack of services, a low quality of life, or unequal access to education. At other times, the idea arises from an unmet need that we observe in our organization or in our community. A project idea can also be inspired by an opportunity. For example, the need for new technologies, a new partnership, or available funding. In the context of a project, a problem is an objectively existing gap between the current and desired situations. For example, we want to change jobs but do not have the necessary skills. This is a problem. It can appear as a deficit, an obstacle, or a negative trend. A problem is a situation that requires intervention. Its existence is the main motivator for starting a project because it reveals the need for change. Correctly identifying and defining the problem is crucial for creating a well-founded and realistic project idea. Without a clear understanding of the nature and causes of the problem, any subsequent risk planning would be ineffective or inadequate. A need is what motivates us. It pushes us to seek solutions for change. Problems arise when our needs are not met. This is also how project ideas are born. The theory of the well-known American psychologist Abraham Maslow explains what drives human behavior. According to him, people have needs arranged in a hierarchy, from the most basic to the highest. Maslow presents this hierarchy as a pyramid. At its base are the physiological needs, such as food, water, sleep, and health. Next come the needs for safety, such as shelter, security, and stability. On the next level is belonging, or the need for love, friendship, and social connections. Above that are the needs for self-esteem, or the desire to be recognized and valued. At the top is the need for self-actualization, or our drive for learning, creativity, spirituality, and the development of our potential. These needs are universal. They are at the core of our aspirations and goals. When a need goes unmet, people look for ways to meet it, which creates motivation to act. This is where the connection with project thinking comes in. Unmet needs, whether personal, group, or societal, are often at the root of the problem. To generate a project idea, we need to analyze the problem in depth. The analysis starts with one key statement, which is that every effect has a cause. It is not enough just to name the problem. First, we need to understand the causes of this situation. Why does this problem exist? Second, we must identify which gaps, shortcomings, or decisions have contributed to its emergence. We should also ask, what are the negative consequences of the problem and who is affected? What will happen if it is not solved? The analysis allows us to distinguish the superficial symptom from the underlying cause and to see the consequences in a systematic way. To analyze the problem, we use a tool called the problem tree. It helps us visualize the links between the causes, the central problem, and the consequences. Imagine a tree. The central problem is the trunk. Below it are the roots. These are the causes that feed the problem. Some are obvious, others lie deeper. Upwards grow the branches. These are the effects that spread if the problem remains unsolved. The problem tree makes it easier to understand the situation and make informed decisions. It provides a logical structure and helps us formulate realistic and achievable goals. It also creates a clear picture of the interconnections and opportunities. Last but not least, the problem tree allows us to identify the critical elements in a project, the parts on which its effectiveness and sustainability depend. Understanding the problem is the first step towards defining the objective and achieving project success. Once we have analyzed the problem, we need to build a logical link to the project idea. First, we define the current situation, how things are now. Then, we formulate the desired situation and answer the question, what do we want to achieve? Finally, we decide how we should achieve it and with what resources. The project idea is a logical response to the identified problem. It brings together the objective, the ways to achieve it, and the benefits for the target group. Before we start working on the project, we need to make sure our idea is well thought out and grounded in a real-world context. Project thinking is not limited to what we want to do. We need to check who has already worked on a similar idea, what new value we can offer, and what the concrete benefits will be for our partners or target groups. We also have to consider in which geographical and thematic context the idea will be implemented. This will determine both our approach and our chances for funding and impact. To turn our idea into a real project, we need to develop it further. We start with an analysis of the environment. The environmental analysis is a systematic process of collecting and interpreting data about the reality around us. Its goal is to help us understand both the strengths and weaknesses of our organization and the external factors such as threats and opportunities. We do this using two key tools, which are SWOT and PESTLE analysis. These analyses help us plan our project more effectively. SWOT analysis is one of the most popular tools for strategic planning. It is used to assess 4 groups of factors. First, there are the strengths and weaknesses related to the internal environment. Second, there are the opportunities and threats which come from the external environment. How can we apply SWOT analysis in practice? Let's look at an example, a project for training young people in digital skills. Your organization may have an expert team and a suitable training methodology. These are the project's strengths. The weaknesses may include limited financial resources and a lack of marketing. External opportunities could be the growing demand for digital skills, while the threats include rapidly changing technologies and competition. Such an analysis helps us plan the project better and focus our efforts in the right way. PESTLE analysis focuses entirely on the external environment. It examines political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors. The method is especially useful for large infrastructure or social projects. Both analyses help us think strategically, identify our strengths, anticipate risks, and make use of external opportunities. They're at the core of a sustainable and successful project. The next step in the analysis is to identify the stakeholders and understand their attitudes and expectations towards the project. Stakeholders are all the people, groups, or organizations who are interested in a project, can influence its implementation, or are affected by its results. This includes active participants in the project, external actors, and institutions related to the topic. These groups can influence how our project is carried out or be influenced by it in the short and long term. They can contribute to its success by providing support, resources, or expertise. Some of these groups have significant power and may even sabotage the project. That is why identifying them is an important step at the very beginning of every project. It helps us anticipate potential risks, plan realistically, and achieve sustainable results. Stakeholders in a project can be both internal and external. Internal stakeholders are part of the project itself or of the organization implementing it. They may include the project team, partners, management team, staff, and volunteers. External stakeholders include local communities, institutions, contractors, media, influencers, and other actors who have an interest in or will be affected by the project. Both groups have different expectations that we need to take into account when planning and managing our project. One important step in identifying stakeholders is defining the target group that will benefit from our project's results. The target group includes the people at whom the project is mainly directed and who will be positively affected by its outcomes. Direct beneficiaries are the target groups who will be positively affected in the long term. Indirect beneficiaries are those who benefit indirectly from the project results, such as the media, the wider community, or institutions. Distinguishing between these groups helps us plan and assess the impact of the results achieved through the project. When preparing the project, the target group must be clearly defined and categorized. For example, it can be defined quantitatively or qualitatively by number, age, place of residence, or other characteristics. In addition, the target group should be selected in line with the project's objectives and the available resources. For example, if our project aims to improve digital literacy, it would not be appropriate to target people who already work in the IT sector. It is much more logical to choose a target group such as unemployed young people or older adults with limited digital skills. Once we have analyzed the stakeholders, we need to develop a plan for working with them based on a clear engagement strategy. This includes defining appropriate actions such as meetings, consultations, information campaigns, or joint activities. It is important to maintain regular and clear communication, to take their expectations into account, and to respond when tension or new interests arise. The participation of the target group should be monitored throughout the entire project cycle, and the reactions of its representatives should be observed when decisions are made. It is especially important to periodically seek feedback from participants through surveys, interviews, or discussions to understand whether the communication and their involvement meet their needs and expectations. This allows us to adjust our approach in time and build trust. Thank you for watching this video.